headphones is on. I mean, you can hear that sound. Yeah. I'm not gonna see it. No, this is not open.
Yeah, this is open right here.
Oh, can you get back in?
I'm gonna get back there. And I'm gonna get over here. Yeah, I'm gonna sit right here. And I'm gonna drop my phone. Okay. And some comfortability here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, wow. Look what we have. Y'all thought we was finished.
It took a lot.
It's been a long time coming. It did take a lot, yeah. A whole lot.
So, welcome to the We As an Hour Show, volume 56.
Woo-hoo.
Is that what we on, 56?
Yes.
This is volume 56. There's been a lot of stuff going on. And so first, of course, we need to reintroduce ourselves. Mr. Pick Your Poison, Michael Barnes.
We doing nicknames.
I mean, we could go AKA Pharaoh 20, AKA, no.
I forgot what my nickname was. But anyway.
First lady, wasn't it?
No, that was somebody
lady.
else, yeah. I'm Carol Warner.
I'm Steven.
AKA K Marine, that's what it is.
Oh, there.
Oh, K Marine. Oh yeah, you know K Marine. Yeah. You know.
Michael Phelps, the professor.
And I'm Steven Abraham. You know, Big Steve. You know.
AKA Jackalope.
Call me Reverend Chicken Wing. You know, but you know. We're going to bring out that knowledge and understanding.
So, yeah.
So the title for the show today is Things That Should Make You Think. Because there's a lot of stuff apparently that we're not thinking about.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm just going to leave that open. I got no opening thoughts on that.
Well, someone forgot the list of what we was going to talk about.
It wasn't my fault. Somebody should have reminded me.
Oh my goodness. So there was varieties of topics that was discussed on the Omaha Black discussion page that drew a lot of comments, and so we went through them and picked some of those out. One was about Steve posted one about skin tone.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring that one to the table first?
Well, you know, really, the post stated that bronze and our skin color are very similar and unique to us. And then there was individuals that also said that it's not just unique to us, but it's also unique to people that have melanin in their skin. My point of that post was not to bring about a conversation about just specifically color, but it was the understanding that when we start calling ourselves names like black man, black woman, African American, Afro American, we really got to look at the root words in the foundation for why we are doing that. Because if we're going off the simple recognizing our color by just looking at us, we can't call ourselves black people. I mean, there's different shades of brown in individuals that are not black. You know, there are different shades of brown, but some people say, well, our hair is black. It's like, no, if you go out into the sun, our hair is sandy brown. Our eyelashes, the hair on our arms, the hair on our legs, our skin color. So I think that that's a problem in regards to wanting to be recognized within society, because when we start, different people, they like, okay, do I call you black man? Do I call you African American? Do I call you Negro? What do I call you? So I think that we are one of the only, if not, we are one of the only people on this planet that has, where people are confused to what they call us. We're even confused to what we call each other. So,
well, yeah, shoot. You get displaced, and half the people out there, once they leave their block, they don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
So,
But I understand other people's arguments too. They find that we all came from a region, and that region is what we should be calling ourselves. I agree that if we all came from Africa, yes, we are affiliated with Africa, but that doesn't give us a notion of what nationality we are over there in Africa, because there's many cultures in there and within Africa. So I understand when we do have these arguments, it's going to be hard for us to call ourselves African Americans if that's what if we just want to call ourselves a continent. But if we want to call ourselves what we truly are, since we don't know whose we are to know who we are, then how do we name ourselves? So I guess the closest thing was to say that we're African American. Am I right?
Well, I think that throughout history, like the evolution of just what anybody called us, we basically accepted it, like Negro, nigger, black, African American. Those were not terms that we coined. Somebody else did. So, and we accepted those terms. So we're always looking to find our identity, because our identity has been lost throughout the years. But we have always accepted what others said we were. And I think that's really the issue.
I think African American was coined in the 1984 or 5 by Jesse Jackson. That's where the African American term and distinction came from. And then I'm not sure where Negro, who did that one, or what was the other one? Colored. I don't know where those came from.
Negro came from Spain.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about in terms of how you define who we are in America.
As a people.
Yeah, that didn't come.
So when we look at that, and you made that point. When we look at that, now how come we didn't call ourselves the original? What does they call them? The
Aborigines.
The Aborigines. How come we stayed? How come we didn't stay that name then?
Because the country now that we're in, we don't originate from.
Right.
Like you can call the Native American or the Native American Islanders, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, all of them, Jamaica, all of those can be considered Aboriginal American people, because their original group set was already here by the time you started seeing the European travel over here with us.
Well, then they said that we was here before.
Yeah, that's what they're referring to, though. They're referring to the dark-skinned Aboriginal people that was here before. Because even like the Taino, you look at the Taino, they was dark-skinned. They was like dark skin complexion.
Yeah.
And how couldn't they be? They was on islands in the middle of the ocean with the sun sitting right there. You know what I'm saying? So that's how come you get that narrative that says that we were here first, and we should stop calling ourselves all these other different types of names. And in reference to the word black, I think is just a 900-year-old word.
Yeah, it used to be used more. So we have two spellings of more. You have M-U-U-R-S, and then you have M-O-O-R-S. One was in representing a color, where the other one was representing a nationality. So when we talk, what happens is that through the transliterary, down through the genealogy and through time, they combined and said, okay, it means nationality and color. So that's why it's so easy for us to say that I'm a black man or a black woman and reference it to nationality and a color, because it's been done for so long. Yes, it's black. The term black, we've been using that. That's relatively new. The word Moor had been used for over 2,000 plus years. And then the word Negro, that was also a derivative of Moor as well. So I think we got to ask ourselves this question. What nationality was we before we started calling these names? Because some people could trace their genealogy and say, oh yeah, I'm 31% Nigerian, I'm 28% Ghana. And then you have those 1 and 2 and 3% where it says, oh, well, you're from the Middle East or you're from this and that. Well, when we look at our genealogy, we can't look at it from the bulk. We can't look at the 30-some plus % being where we're from. We got to move backwards. The ones that are like 1 and 2 and 3%, that's your ancient genealogy. That's your ancient DNA. Because it's so down. It's so, you know what I'm saying? We always talk about how we've been mixed with different cultures.
Did we all of us do our DNA test? I did mine. Did you do that? Okay. I know I did mine. The way I understood it was that you got to be careful with those because like you could take them 2 and 3 times and get different results, but it's you though. So like, and it depends on what type of test you take. So for example, if you take the paternal test, it's going to give you the background of your father, right? And it can split. It'll split in 2 because your father had a mother and a father, and so you can get the information from your dad's side that's leaning more towards your grandmother's side rather than leaning more towards your grandfather's side. But when it goes back into like what he was saying, the 30% or 40%, the bulk of your percentage, I think that what we should be doing in that instance is focusing more on the tribe. The tribes, 2,000 and 3,000 years ago were so big and so concentrated because we didn't have airplanes and a lot of boats for us to be moving around in droves like we are today. So if you look at your greatest percentages of your DNA test, basically what you're looking for is the area where your tribe existed the most. And then when you got like the 1 and the 2%, that's probably somewhere that your DNA would have traveled to, right? Or where essentially something cross-pollinated in them spaces. You could have had 1% European from Europe, but the bulk of your stuff is sub-Saharan African. You could have had some influence in there.
Okay.
So that's how I think you need to look at it. It's like filling a glass up with, 20% water and then 10% oil, basically. And how you mix it together depends on, you'd be looking at your mom's side, your dad's side, and on and on and on.
Okay.
Well, I remember I posted a post that someone sent to me, and it says that we're the only group of people that will spend. They sold us for $100, and then we turn around and spend another $100 to find out our DNA and where we came from.
It should be free. It really should be.
And that's what the guy was saying. He said, he didn't understand that. He said, back in those days, we were sold for $50 to $100 on a block. He said, now they took the $100 or the $100, and now they're $99 and charging us to find out where they stole us from.
Right.
So it's funny. And okay, so that was a good one.
Are we phasing out or? No, that is a good topic.
That's something we probably need to get more research and come back with, bring to the table, and discuss that one.
Yeah. I would just say look at it for your tribe though. If you look at it for your tribes, like mine for example is the House of Fulani. That's two different, it's like North and South Mali or Ghana, old Ghana. The Ghana Kingdom though, that entire area over there, there's a north and a south to it. And one of them overtook the other one. So I'm like, okay. But now today is House of Fulani. I'm like, okay, dang, was that southern or was that northern?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, okay, well, there was another topic that was pretty interesting on there. It was 2 black women married 2 white guys, and they in the post read. Can you put that one up? Can you find that one? I believe they read that the black girl said, now that I'm marrying a white guy, I ain't got to worry about being on ADC, welfare. I don't have to get WIC.
No food stamps.
No food stamps. No good credit. No cricket boost is Verizon. You know, and some of the questions that came about was, why do you post this type of stuff on there? This is the stuff that makes you think. The reason why I post it, because it makes you think. Because if someone took the time to post something like that, I mean, it was in their DNA to think about it. For some reason, even though it might be a joke, it might be something. But if someone could sit down and think about something like that, obviously they thought about that. Somebody thinking like that.
Somewhere.
Yeah, so it had to derive from somewhere.
What do you think about the sentiment, though? You think that it's it sounded, when I read it, when I read it in my head, it was like, that's just brand management. Oh, no more Boost Mobile, it's going to be Verizon. I actually hate Verizon. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, all these fees, I got all
I guess what they're saying that you're going to have the finer things versus the lesser.
Upgrade.
You upgrade to the best when you go there. You know, if it ain't right, if it ain't white, it ain't tight.
Dude's idiots, man. Whoever thought it was an idiot.
But somebody has, but there is probably a percentage of people that think that way.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. You know what? But in the reverse, I've heard black men say that they date white women to help them build their credit. So I've heard the reverse.
And statue.
So there is some truth to the notion that if you go white, it's going to be better quality everything. I mean,
that a thing?
And and it's historical. I mean,
go white.
Well, even the foreigners that come over here, they don't really want to marry in our race. They rather marry a white person with blue eyes. Blue eyes and blonde hair, because that's a political status. And so they look at that for a political status. Like, okay, I'm not going to, the darker you are, the more they know you work the fields. The lighter you are, you work the corporation.
It just goes to show you how worldwide, how pervasive the
propaganda spread.
Whiteness is goodness narrative has spread. First time I realized that was happening, I was dealing with this Asian guy. And if we can get one that's blonde hair and blue eyes, then that's tops. I'm like, but they ain't shit. I'm looking like that.
Get one who? What?
A white person. Like that's the Japanese. Like they really kind of they ain't to the point where they worship blonde hair and blue eyes. But I mean, look at the art. Y'all anime watchers out there, y'all know the characters and everything. They always got big blue eyes and blonde hair, especially the hero. You know what I'm saying? So they don't worship them.
Yeah, but Captain America.
And Captain America. Dun, dun, dun.
So one of the things that we always talk about is recognizing individuals as they comment on the show. And Wanda Lewis, she said, both my brothers and myself, DNA results were the same culturally. I just don't carry the male marker. So Wanda, thanks for commenting on the show. Yeah. And you said that your brother's DNA results were the same culturally. What culture, I would ask this, what culture was that? And as far as the male and female marker, science has told us that there's an X and Y chromosome, and that's how sex is determined in regards to creation and then developing after that into the people that we are today. What is the most dominant marker in DNA? Is it the Y or the X chromosome?
The X.
I think it's the X.
It's the X. Now,
Everybody got an
Because
X.
everybody has an X, yeah. So
okay, and so Y determines,
Boy,
boy or girl. Yeah, so the
Boy.
X, so XX
is
is
girl.
girl,
Is-
XY is boy.
Yeah.
X, Y.
If one of the legs break off, you do.
So, and I knew you
And
were
that
going to say,
happens.
so, when we talk about XS, so are we saying that the X is the feminine gene?
Yes.
Okay, and the Y is the male gene.
Yep.
So, but you still need the X and the Y to create a male then, but you just have X and X as creates a female.
Right.
So we know that you can't have 4 X's and create anything.
No, that's a different species. That would be a different species entirely.
Okay, but you can still keep on reproducing XY, XY,
Well,
XY.
flowers, don't they?
No, men
Plants.
can't produce. Men together can't produce enough of men.
But plant-based, that can't happen though.
No, it's
Just not with humans.
on Earth.
So do
You
you,
can't
Or
take
do
two.
plants have chromosomes?
Yep.
so do you
We
see,
all every living thing on the planet, even air.
But plants can
well, they use photosynthesis.
cross-pollinate and
Yeah.
Yeah, they use
Create, yeah.
photosynthesis, and
Yeah.
people in the science world
Yeah.
like to use numbers when it comes to that. When it comes to any type of transferring of energy, except for us, they don't consider DNA energy. So what I'm saying is that when it comes to determining the sex between a male and a female, and as we're saying XX creates a female, XY creates a male, but XY can't keep creating or XX. So you need that male and female component to create the actual DNA, the creation.
Well, you can do, like XX can do it because it has everything it needs to make the next generation of itself. XY can't do it because something malfunctioned. That's what it is. That's what the male is a malfunction of the female.
So you're saying the Y was an X, and then the leg fell off, and then it mutated?
It's a mutation, right? We're purposed a certain way. That's right. I mean, we both kind of came into existence together
Mm-hmm.
because it's like really hard to explain that part without going into scientific. Basically, male and female came into existence together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody, male or most likely the female, kept getting, the environment was too harsh. The female kept getting eaten by something bigger than itself. It's one of these things. It couldn't hunt as well. It couldn't protect its young as well. And so it was a natural mutation to create the protectionary mechanism, which now today we're looking at each other.
You really listen to that?
I didn't have to listen to it.
I'm talking about, this is where I get lost in that translation.
Mhm.
When it say that a woman couldn't protect herself, there also says that out of the X, one of the legs broke off, and it created a stronger human being that was able to lift and protect.
I give you it's a very simple analogy, right? The leg on your table breaks. What do? You put a thing underneath it. The thing underneath it, in this case, when I speak about DNA, was the male. It's not that we're retarded or anything like that or whatever. We're just a natural mutation to help protect the other, the reproduction.
But if you put a leg up under the table,
you adapted.
if I put another leg on the table, it ain't gonna be stronger than the other leg unless I get a bigger, wider thing, which is gonna be but what I'm saying in that theory is that if the X is the fullness, and then the Y is not full because something broke off, then I mean it should be weaker than the X. The X should be the strongest.
Okay, that in that one little box, yeah. But you got to consider 1,000,000 years of mutation. We've been purposed to do certain things for 1,000,000 years.
So you're saying women were...
Our species kept getting screwed with. And so the natural adaptation to the environmental pressures, to the feeding pressures.
So everybody was like a woman?
No, not necessarily.
I'm confused.
Not necessarily. We more we're more evenly matched when we, in the beginning. And so over time, as males developed, the types of things that males did over time.
Well, what about like sexual reproduction? Like, what did that look like? What?
XX.
You can't reproduce with
What?
XX.
What are you talking about?
Right. You
The
can't.
woman has always been a woman. The male is the new thing.
So this is what, you know, and I know that we talk about different things within our conversation during the show. This is one thing that, because you're saying that the female was the first protector. So we know that naturally, the
No, I'm
natural
saying they both
process.
came into existence together. They protected each other well. I mean, well, just not well enough to.
But so the male is the natural protector. And we know this. We know this through the animal kingdom,
Right.
Plants,
Right.
Humans. We know that the male is the natural protector, and we know that the female usually gives birth or produces things
It
from itself.
houses the man's sperm,
And then
and incubates it, and then it gives birth to what he planted in her. Just like you take a seed
Right.
and put it in the
and put it
dirt.
in the dirt, it does the same reproduction act.
Right.
So when you brought science in there, I am still trying to figure out how if a Y is a decomposed matter. Because once something drops, something goes off, something decomposes.
I'm just saying that one, and we can look at this, it's still happening right in front of us there. You got different levels of cats, different levels of dogs, you have different levels of everything else around us, but it couldn't have happened to us? Yeah, it did.
No. Yeah, I understand the evolution part. Like, I understand the evolution of human beings.
Evolution.
But what you're saying is, like, I guess I'm just confused about the X, Y chromosome. No, I mean, I'm just gonna look further into it. But I don't get how the Y chromosome was a mutation.
And
Like, it's not supposed to be.
because you know how that debunks. We just said with the DNA, there's a male marker and a female marker. There's a distinct trait that's between both of those two markers. So that means that they are different. Do you understand?
But it has
the DNA.
But you have to have
both to create.
Right.
Yeah, don't do
And
it.
then-
You're about to make a case that they're two different species.
No. Just a mark, just like the character. It's a characteristic of the DNA.
Just like the cat, just like you said about the cat.
It's different
They're for different cats.
Yep.
They in different dogs, but that don't mean that they're still dogs, they're still cats.
Right.
There's still a dog and there's still a cat. They're feline. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we have to kind of look at it.
But that happened because man intervened and did and crossbred it. So you gotta remember that. You gotta watch out what man says, because man has done a lot of.
I'm not talking about domestic cats only. Domestic cats are recent, right? Well, no.
No, they're not recent.
No.
They was doing that way back.
Egyptian times. I
They
mean, they have cats on the wall, domesticated.
Well, okay, like bobcat versus cougar. Cougar versus tiger. Tiger versus lion. Them things been around forever.
Yeah.
But then different levels of naturally.
Because they evolved. But it wasn't like in the beginning, it was just this domesticated cat.
Yeah, pumas didn't go mess with a tiger.
Right.
Then
It was
you
just-
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The captivity came about.
Captivity, and they started
And now
crossbreeding.
they making ligers. You know, a lion and a tiger.
Yeah, well,
That's a real animal.
Yeah.
Everyone, that's a real animal.
And so is jackalope.
That's a real animal.
Like Jack.
They took these two animals and they made it to them, and then
Wait,
next
what
thing
is
you know, they
jackalope?
put
I mean,
them.
I'm sorry. It's
Out there.
an antelope and a rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
How the
like
hell did that happen?
exactly.
An antelope and a rabbit?
So
That's not cool.
He eats some bad grass, okay? He eats some bad
That
grass.
was right.
and as when we talk
I'm
about
not trying to be
yeah,
rude about that. I'm just saying, like, an antelope and a rabbit.
Look up the word jackalope and just image search.
and it's a real animal.
You won't believe it.
It's actually a real animal. But
You don't believe it.
a lot of the things as we go like close to the border, So we're talking about, you know, where those animals, they dwell, different animals dwell in different areas or different environments to be productive. Like a polar bear is not going to survive well in a warm temperature climate area. So, you know, as we're talking about families and cultures, you know, recently in the news, we had the issue with President Donald Trump talking about the immigration situation, ICE. What do you think is going to happen when Donald Trump gives that final executive order to maybe, they're saying, to bring families back together? Now that these children have been displaced and put in these FEMA camps, which is Federal Emergency Management Group, which we talked about before, Barack Obama had, under his presidency, had a lot of FEMA camps created and implemented. And Donald Trump, those facilities were created and done. Donald Trump put the individuals in those facilities, detention centers. What do you think is the next step? I mean, in regards to bringing those families together, or do you think it's not going to ever happen?
We're going to have to mature as a group, as a culture. That's basically what needs to happen. We need to grow up. Because that's insane to be doing that to other human beings when we know the effects of that from our own history.
And the sad thing about that is that most of them, they already been talking about depopulation. So we don't know what's happening because the media only gonna give us what they want us to see. And sometimes we got to go. We ain't gonna be able to go beyond the thought process that this is an attack on population control as well. So we need to be paying attention because those camps aren't just made for them. They are made for more than just the ones they already obtained.
You believe in that? Do you believe in population control?
Well, Bill Gates had I think it was a couple of years ago. He was just talking about population control. He was talking about the vaccines and all the stuff.
I think it was more white fear. There's too much space on this planet to be worried about. Even at 7 billion people and with Earth being a finite resource, there's still way too much room on the planet.
Well, have you watched a video about over in Japan and how they polluting their water so bad, and they had to send people out. They contract people out to go out and clean that river, clean those out every day.
Yep.
And the pollution so bad it's killing the fish. And then you starting to look at how they're using all these chemicals to make giant chickens and the giant creating stuff. So for some reason they have to mutate stuff to keep up with the population. So I'm just saying, I don't know 100%, but I think that we should be paying attention to some of that, but not to the point where they consume us, but enough to be, we need to start growing our own, doing our own, and worried about what's they squirting in the air and stuff like that. We do need to be paying attention to that because
we do. I think we need to pay attention, and I think we need to pay attention anyway, but particularly to how white fear manifests itself. Fear make you do just as stupid things as anything else, right? So if they're scared that there's too many people on Earth, we'll never be able to. We need to keep that in check. And then to your point about the pollution, I mean, golly, all you do, you can measure how much per household people pollute, and what happens is a lot of times is per household, one household will pollute enough for 10 or 20 households. And so, yeah, even with 1 billion people living in China, reduce the pollution, and it'll start telling the actual truth of the matter. What do we naturally need to live a happy life and things like that? So, no, I don't believe in population control or not control, but the population or overpopulation theories. Those are false. The Earth is a lot bigger than people give it credit for.
Is it that, or is it more economy? Like, is it more about money? I always thought population control was more about money, other than, rather than it being not enough space on Earth.
Yeah, I don't think they're talking about the space. I think it's about keeping up, being able to look at just in sports how they just go out and just kill animals for just out of the sport of the man. No eating of the meat, and that's what the natives fought with them so much because they said Chief Red Claw said he seen a vision of them just slaughtered millions of buffaloes, and that's what they was doing. They was just slaughtering just for the fun of it, because they get drunk and got shoot the guns and start shooting at something.
And they still doing it today.
And they still doing it today. Donald Trump's family, his sons and them, always out hunting, killing just for no reason, just to put a plaque on their wall. You know what I mean? A head, part of something they game. I'm just like, wow.
Got inadequacy issues, man. But you're gonna love it. It's gonna be great. Everybody's gonna love it.
And they call them poachers, but they call everybody else poachers. but theirs is legitimate.
Yeah, it'd be millions and millions of dollars.
Well, we're going to create a Space Force, remember?
Oh my God, the Space Force.
Well, the Space Force
Build a wall.
The Space Force.
We're going to build the wall.
We're gonna do the wall.
Mexico's going to pay for it.
We're gonna do the wall. We're gonna have a Space Force. It's good. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it.
And I am doing the guy that's
we need a space unit though. We should have been did that.
Well, and I was just about to speak on that. So, we're picking fun at Donald Trump, but the president has a clear plan on what he feels needs to be done out in space. He feels that there needs to be some sort of presence to maybe just defend the Earth against something, clean up the space junk that's out there. Do you know that there's millions of articles of space debris circling our planet right now today? And every day some space debris crashes down to Earth, and it doesn't kill anyone, but there's been instances where that debris has went into homes, that has been destroyed, remote areas. So I think that needs to be addressed. Now, in regards to my opinion as far as what Donald Trump has been doing in regards to immigration, a lot of people say that it's long overdue, and some people say that it's against equality, it's against justice, and it's against our human rights as people.
It's unconstitutional.
But legally, it says that you have to be a citizen of the country to reside there. So I think that we are looking at a couple things: the enforcement of rules without a clear statement, without a clear statement, clear understanding, and then the other is, the question is to the American people: do you want a country that you are paying tax dollars in to basically help other individuals that are not tax-paying citizens? I mean, is that what was that what America was founded on?
It's really a silly notion in the first place. It's a silly ass notion.
It is.
All you need if you want to maintain borders and all this is have a system, put a system in place, which we got this system, put a system in place and have people go through that system. And don't make it like a big scary monster or whatever. You know what I mean? Just what you got to do to get in the country.
I agree.
That's it. But instead, what you have is this pervasive narrative on the underbelly of America. It's fear that constantly perpetuates this idea that everybody else is trying to get us, or they're trying to, like Tim Wise said this. Everybody else is trying to take our stuff. But we're not even like the best country in the world right now, and we haven't been for a while actually. I think.
But you think that fear comes because when it comes to all the population that's trying to creep in, that's going to make a certain group of the minority instead of the majority, and maybe that's where the fear is at.
I think they know that they know that their DNA is weak. I think they know that they're expiring. Subconsciously, I think they understand that. And then you got statistics, Del Hunt, right? You got statistics that will back that notion up, that they're dying faster than they're having kids. As fast as they are having children, they're dying faster than that. And we can see them. We can see it walking around. We can see how disease riddled they are. We kind of got created our own stereotype that black don't crack. We're kind of speaking to it. It's just a cliche, right? It's a cliche form right there. But yeah, I think we know. They're very mimicky. They're very disease prone, where we withstand a lot of stuff. So
well,
data that's
I don't know if we withstand a lot of stuff. We suffer from the most health afflictions than any other group of people, besides Native Americans. Native Americans, the highest rate of alcoholism, liver disease, heart disease. I think that's also another notion that we have amongst ourselves, that, you know how they say black don't crack, or they say, oh, well, this person is 99 some years old and they still got good skin and all those things right there. But exactly. But the thing is, it's about what you have. It's about what you know, what you put into your body, what you give out. Because a lot of those people, they be like, oh man, that person was an angry person when they was younger, boom, boom, boom. Or they be like, oh, well, this person was semi-nice, but you better not get on their bad side. But then they changed as they got older. They understand, they became more wise. And they knew what they were supposed to do. That's ways that I look at a person and I judge and say, oh, that's a good man or that's a good woman. Because I'm looking at Trump, I'm like, he's an older white gentleman, right? But he's been around the black community forever. If you look at the movies, the TV shows, the music, events, everything that
hang out with him.
He's been around all the minorities forever, Hispanic and African Americans. So I look at the things that he's doing and say, is he doing this to cause a reaction and then repair it? Or is he doing it to really because that was his underlying thought?
I think he's just an idiot who's accidentally doing a bunch of stuff. I think he's actually an idiot.
Steve, I mean, what you thinking?
Well, Kara, you know, I see that you're looking at me as I say those things, and I'm really serious. I mean, Donald Trump won the majority of vote. He did not win the populist vote, but we know that if you win the majority vote, you win. That means that there's people that feel a certain way about the current state of the United States of America. Because it wasn't just whites, it was African Americans, blacks and Hispanics, blacks and Hispanics, Native Americans. It was different people that voted for Donald Trump.
I think a lot of women voted.
A lot of women voted for Donald Trump. Just like the last election, a lot of women voted for Barack Obama. What is the solution to
They thought that
issue?
they thought that the women wasn't gonna like him because he was talking about he grabbing coochies and all that stuff. But no, the women voted for him.
No,
They want coochies grabbed.
well, I don't know. I think that they did it because they felt a certain way about what he was saying. The country. Okay, you know how Barack Obama riled the people up with his the words and his change message and moving forward.
I think this was all established
way before.
before.
Yeah, it's on Bart Simpson.
I mean, it's on Bart. Yeah, it's not Bart Simpson. What do they call it?
No,
The Simpsons. It was on The Simpsons. There was like prophetic word that this man was going to like be president.
Yeah.
And the way in which it happened, it was written 15 years ago. This was supposed to happen. Barack Obama being in presidency, that was written too. Like all of this is a setup.
Where was this written?
It's a setup.
Where was Barack Obama?
Not specifically Barack Obama, but that a black a black president was going
Yeah, that was
to.
going to take.
Yeah, I mean it's been written. I mean it's
TV
it's
shows,
a freaking setup.
shows too.
Yeah.
It's all a setup.
It's all a setup. I am a conspiracy theorist, damn it. I really am.
What?
It is a setup.
What?
It's a setup.
And they all related. Half of them all related. They all.
And y'all in the Illuminati too.
Everybody's related.
So do
You
you
know the way they related him to other people? Everybody's related.
So do you feel that that's why the immigration thing has become a very more popular thing, because even Donald Trump's family is immigrants.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
His wife is an
His wife,
immigrant.
yes.
Barack Obama is an immigrant
His
because
mother is.
we gotta look at the DNA. But his mother is also. So just like the Markley, Kate, the person that married Prince Edward, I believe.
Yeah.
Meghan.
Meghan Markley.
Meghan Markle or something.
Yeah, Markle. So we gotta look at, is this a bigger issue than what we're perceiving it to be? Because Donald Trump is catching a lot of heat for this. And there's been, the United Nations is demanding answers, all these different big other countries are looking at the United States right now and saying, how are you gonna deal with the immigration issue? Because there's a lot of people that feel like immigrants get a better start than the actual people that's been living here in the United States.
Okay, feel like. I can understand why you get, because they feel like that. But
The
part
reality.
and part is the actual reality, yeah.
Okay.
The reality is over here.
Mm-hmm.
What they feel like is way over here.
So are you for what Trump is doing at this point, or?
So my stance, as far as what Trump is doing, as a person that has took a oath within a certain office, we help all individuals, and we have rules that's in place that will help individuals that have been displaced by storms, refugee population. So the immigrant, in regards to helping immigrants develop to be better citizens within our community, our society, our country, is a #1 priority. Personally and morally, I think that Trump should be doing things a little bit differently. I think that he should actually have people that have went through those things that you're making rules for to be the ones that institute a better rule, better legislation, better laws, regulations, because they understand that there's good people that come to this country and that there's bad people that come to this country. We can look right over into the Mexican border and see all these wars happening right over the wall.
Well, I think that the reason why it's not going to change is because as long as you have a body of people that is obsessed with money, and then lobbyists can come in and pay for their agenda, then you're going to always see these conflicts, within laws and everything, because somebody is paying for this thing to happen like this, because they're making money out of this somehow, some shape, some form. So we just need to understand that this is all really about money. The nucleus is money, and so once we can get people in office that's not obsessed with having money and really care for the people again, and then we probably can solve the problem. We got too many guys that have been sitting in Congress for too long, stubborn, stuck in their way, use the system to get the wealth that they accumulated right into this day. And nobody's challenging them to get out of office. I think no congressman should be sitting in there 20, 30 years. That's just loose. Why, as a president, can't sit in that long? Why they can sit in that long? They should have terms just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And they sitting up there getting greased, and then they making laws that is so and half of them are old Klansmen that's sitting up in there. I'm not saying all of them, but the majority of them in there is old Klansmen. So they sitting up in there making laws that affect other people besides themselves, and then we need to be paying attention to how they run their campaign. If it ain't about family dynamics, not just your what you have in your own home, but outside of your family, inside your immediate family, and see the relationship they have with their uncles, their brothers, their cousins, then we should be paying attention to that as well, because if you don't have, if you're not close with your aunts and uncles and all that, how you think it's going to affect your judgment on making decisions across the board in the laws?
And I was going to say, you know, as that brings on to another thing that's going on within our community, is that we feel that the financial district within minority communities is really stagnant, but minorities spend the most. Nielsen just did a survey of that recently, and Forbes, they also did a survey about that, and they found that African Americans spend $2.5 billion a year. Now, that's annually, and that's a modest, you know, estimate. So it could be more than $2.5 billion. Some people feel that African Americans or minorities should create their own currency, like Italy. You go to Italy, they have their own currency. You go to Greece, they have their own currency. You go to Spain, they have their own currency.
Shout out to Icon.
But since we spend like a country, but we're not a country, we're just a group within a country.
Well, the reason why we can't do that is because we're inside of a system of someone that's ruling the narrative. The way they got us set up. We were just talking about this trauma. We have a lot of trauma, and long as they can keep vaccinating us with medicine and alcohol, all the things that we use as coping mechanisms, we're never going to be mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally able to fight against the oppressor, because we don't even admit that we are oppressed. We don't admit that we suppressed. We don't admit that we're conquered. We don't admit that we have an illness. We don't even admit none of these things. So how are we gonna fight? How are we gonna fight something when we can't even admit the symptoms that we have first? We gotta admit to the symptoms that we have. Then we can sit on the playing field and then try to sit down and try to diagnose properly our symptoms, so then we can start repairing. We got damaged cells inside of us right now. As we all speak, there's damaged cells in this room. And each cell has to have a healing mechanism. And each cell we have to know what it needs for that cell to heal. And if we don't know, and we keep misdiagnosing it, what's going to happen? That cell's going to get infected. It's going to do this. It's going to keep damaging itself until it wipes you out. And that's what's happening. We're being wiped out because we have not sat down at the table and said, I'm sick. Can we work on me?
Does that really matter though? Like if you're sick, it don't matter if you recognize that you're sick or not. You're still sick. You know?
Well, once you recognize and identify, you won't constantly be penalized. Once you recognize that you have an illness, what's the next step? You seek something to help heal it, to cure it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But if you don't think you have an illness, you know what you do? You would judge somebody else, and then you don't know their illness. Then what that called? That is called misdiagnosing somebody else. And then what you do, you assume that they should know what you know and do what you do. No, it's not true. We gotta sit down and say, okay, maybe this person has a little illness. Maybe they can't fit themselves, or they don't have the energy, or they might have the mental capability, or maybe they don't have the physical attributes.
I think that one of the issues I'm having with that, like, just contextually, is okay. There's a difference between calling yourself something. Like, I can say my name is James all day long, but my name's not James, right? So similarly, if I say that, if I go around saying that I'm oppressed, if I go around declaring that's my condition, then I will be bound by that condition that I profess on my own self. I think it's necessary to understand the affliction. You know, if you got cut, it's necessary to go, yeah, I got cut. But that doesn't mean I'm getting cut. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that it's in the action of doing so. And so I think it's semantical. with me right
Well,
there?
it's a double-edged sword.
I don't like saying, "Oh, we're oppressed."
Okay,
That kills off any
notion of healing.
Yeah, ability to heal.
So what do you say? You just keep.
Oppressed denotes that someone is doing something to you now. You are not able to do anything about it, and therefore you sit in this condition. Right? I'm not that. I just refute and rebuke that whole notion.
Well, let us dig deeper into.
Well, let's dig deeper.
Let's dig deeper into
Let's
this
dig
oppression.
deeper.
So, oppressed don't mean that, you know what I mean, when people say, well, I don't like to talk about it because it's like we are given foresight of an infliction and then we're going to stay in it. But once you admit that you have your ancestors came over here, they oppressed them, and we're still living in the same conditions of that oppressed condition that they was bottled up in. We have not, just because we got licenses to go places, go here and there, that doesn't mean that we still not conquered, still not oppressed people. It just means that they just change tactics. And once someone changes tactics, they have to use other things to appease the people. So what they do, they put people in play to come in and pasteurize you, make you feel good. You know what I mean? It may give you a good feeling for a moment, but then you go back home and you back into that state where you at. Why do you think people drink? They ain't drink because they're just miserable. They feel oppressed. They just don't know that they're oppressed. They just drink it. Come on, I'm just tired. What are you tired of? You're tired of something that's choking the life out of you.
I think it's more like the comparison between going to jail or being in jail and then carrying around the felony or the misdemeanors or whatever with you. If you have the misdemeanor or you have the felony, that doesn't mean you're still in jail. It means something happened. You went to jail. Now that you're not in jail anymore, you behave differently, right? You behave differently because you're not.
So physically in a compound.
Yeah.
But
it starts with the mindset, no matter what
when you have a felony, I'm gonna show you how that still works as oppression. Okay, like you've been in jail, you was in a compound, you was confined, you had to get up when they tell you, eat when they tell you, this and that. You get out, they make you free, but then they put this thing up on you, this oppression thing on you, suppression thing on you. So now you got to go out and try to find jobs, and the system around you looks at that system and then judges you according to what that system already has in play. That is a sign of oppressing. Even though he is trying to make it where he's trying to fight through it, navigate through it, and he might land a job. It might not be the best job, but he'll land a job. But then then he lost a lot of time in between there of self-development. He lost a lot of stuff in it. He had to be in survival mode while you're in prison. You gotta remember that. Once you're in prison, you go into survival mode. And so most of the time people pick up books and stuff and read in them, but most of the time it's still about survival.
Yeah.
And when you're in survival mode, you will hurt people to protect, so there's a lot of issues that goes on in being.
Here's my thing though, because I've heard that before. Like, just because you're not in jail doesn't mean you're not in jail, right? That's any culture, any group of people is going to have their own rules and their own justice systems and the things that keep those people in check. In terms of it being a civilization. So I don't think that's an adequate. That's not a good excuse to say, okay, just because I'm not in jail doesn't mean I'm not in jail. So what? So you're not actually physically in jail. You're not actually physically being,
Yeah, so now
you're not a slave today. Stop acting like.
So you're tapping it. Now you're talking about the mental change that's on them. So, and that's why I said, well, you don't know how to deal with the illness, because just like you said, you've never been in jail, you've never been in prison, so you're gonna think differently for someone that has been in. So. I'm talking about have you sat in there for some long period of time and then put in a hole for 6 months to a year to 2 years, 3 years, 5 years in a hole.
I've not been indoctrinated by jail, absolutely not.
Okay, so it's a whole different mindset. Then when you get out, you have to go into a different survival mode. Now you have to move in with family members that say they understand your situation, but they really don't, because after a month you living and ain't paying nothing because you ain't got a job. They gonna start putting the hammer down and you need to get on. And then you got child support that you had before you went in that you couldn't pay while you was in it. Now they put their compound interest on you. So you got a lot of, then they told you need to be a father since you lost all these years of your kid. So you got that compound on you. Then you got a job that's watching you because he was a murderer or he was just in jail. He just got out of prison. So we got to keep an eye on that.
Look at your eyes, dude.
You know, I'm just telling you, there's a lot of mental stuff that's in it. And when you don't have nobody to sit there to give you the psychology, to sit down and talk to you about those issues, what happened? Reconcurrence back into the system. That's what happens.
I got you.
But we misdiagnose things because we as a community don't sit down and try to help each other.
I understand that too. I just don't buy into this notion that, as a large group of, 42 million, 43 million black people in America, we're oppressed.
I'm gonna tell you,
I think a lot of it, because don't get me wrong, I recognize what the problems are. I can see how we're coming to this idea that we're oppressed because conditions today are the same as they were, X amount of years ago, and so on and so forth. I get that. I'm talking about mindset wise. You got, I'll put it like this: they give you the tools. They give you the tools today to liberate yourself. Especially if you are not one of the people that's perpetually incarcerated over time. Mm-hmm. That's this is.
I think I do think though that like Mike said, we've been appeased for so long. They put things in place to appease us, and even though we think that it is liberation, it's not. It's not. It's not. It can't be, because America wasn't founded on liberation. It says it in the Constitution, but it wasn't founded on liberation.
Not for us.
Not for anybody that's not a white man with power, political power. So, from even, not much has changed since then, except different laws and acts. And a lot of these laws and acts, they're worded to make you think that you have the freedom to do this and the third, but you got to read the fine print.
What's the difference between this culture? What's the difference between this culture and the one that they freed themselves from before, and any other one in history?
Well, you talking about the Irish, the Dutch, the British, the French, and when they came over here when they were slaves, and they came over
the
here.
British. What's the difference between this one, America today? And its confinements, its conditions, its verbiage, and the British, and then before that you had, what did you have? In terms of rulership, you had, I believe it was Greece. No, you had.
But they wasn't in the same. They wasn't in the same conditions. They wasn't. There was more like servants.
I'm saying you can say the same thing in every major civilization throughout history.
Yeah, you can. I didn't think that we were talking like specific cultures or anything. I thought we were talking about living in America. Like, I thought that we were just talking oppression.
Right, so then that's cool. Then what I'm saying is, if there is no difference, no matter who we're talking about, throughout the course of history, no matter which culture we're talking about, you can say that same thing. It's not an excuse today. It's not nothing you can't. You're not allowed to cling on to. We're oppressed.
It is an excuse because we are oppressed.
I don't think so because you can say the same thing during any culture.
You can't be high functioning in a system that wasn't designed for you. This is not designed for us.
I'm not talking about systematic racism. That's something else.
Or anything. Currency is not really designed for us. All of this stuff is not for us. This is just not. It's not for us. It was not created by us. It is not for us. Is not for us to be able to progress or be productive. It just looks like that. It looks a certain way, but it's not.
Okay.
You can, but all I'm saying is it's still a form of oppression. Exactly. There's different forms of oppression, and this is a form of oppression.
And what I want to do is show you how that oppression still is being articulated. Now, when you look at, we have enough blacks that have money and have wealth.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
We do not
To
have.
help our communities. Yes,
No,
we
we
do.
don't.
Yes, man. Bill Cosby is a billionaire. Oprah is a billionaire.
That's not enough.
Man, you got entertainers. You got. I'm talking. They got millions.
That's not enough to support 43 million black people.
But it's enough to get something started, like banks. There's enough.
That would just make a bank and make them broke. That's not enough.
No. Once no, listen what I'm saying. Once all of them, if all of them were to combine incomes and start saying we're gonna go build our communities up. Let's start in this place first. Then go here, and we have a 5-year plan to reach every black community. And they set the notion to start the bank, start their own grocery store, start whatever they need to do. And they cannot do that because you know why? Because there's something in the way of them thinking collectively. Something got there to show them that for some reason they cannot come together collectively to put their money where their mouth is. To build these resources that's going to help.
Of course, there's laws and things. There's laws and things like that tell you what you can and can't do legally. That's the kind of differences that I'm talking about. Like every society has its own laws, its own rules, its own regulations for its government for its people. To say that today we're exclusively oppressed in that way is not. I mean, we have some exclusive ways that we are disadvantaged, but I wouldn't say for example, like I said, systemic racism. That's a direct subject. We could speak for hours about how that is an oppressive mechanism that's working against us in this society today. I'm talking about a broader issue.
So do you think there's enough, so this hypothetically, you know, when we talking about all these people, all these people on this planet, do you believe that there's enough jobs that can fulfill all the needs for everybody to work? So just jobs
in this country, or
in this country, all the people that's in this country. Do you think there's enough jobs to fulfill to hand out to each individual in America that we can consider just by the human eye? We ain't talking about the mental state, or the physical, or when we talk about this problem, when you just see somebody and say, "Oh, that person looks like he can work." We don't know because we ain't really been able to sit down and talk to him.
Is there enough jobs? Sure. Well, let's see. What do we got? 320 million. Like at least 150 of those people are kids. So of the people that can work, 150 million jobs. Formal jobs, 9-to-5 jobs. You mean
good paying jobs?
And no, there's a purposeful shortage of jobs in that way. There's not enough of those jobs. No.
Exactly. So
there's always something to do. There's always something to get paid for.
Yeah, some mediocre job that ain't gonna be able to provide for a family. Okay. That it's gonna cause the family to just.
Yeah. Okay. My answer is no. No, there's not enough jobs.
Okay. So that's what. And so when we looking at the numbers in that aspect, so now we got two parents working in the house. If there's two parents in the household, has to work two jobs. Both of them working two jobs in the household.
All right.
Both parents working two jobs to provide for a family of 4. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
And guess what the guy is? He's a fella. He just came out of prison. He had to work 2 jobs, and then he had to do some side hustles.
Mm-hmm.
Do some side things to make ends meet, to feed family, some kids. He already got 2 in the household right now, but that's not including some of the kids he had probably outside the household. So what I'm saying is, you know, if we misdiagnose issues, mental issues that's going on in our community, we're never going to heal. We're going to constantly have this battle, and everybody's going to think they're right. We're not right when we don't know all the mental illnesses that we have. The dysfunction, and illness don't always have to be something that you see. It could be a dysfunction inside of you, inside of a person, that maybe they can't able to keep a job because something about them, they can't deal with order, they can't deal with something that happened to them as a youth, or something that just happened, they don't even know what's wrong with. There's a whole bunch of different things that's going on that adds into the mental part of it. Traumas, as I said. So we are dealing with, that's what I'm saying. So we as a people